3 investments to avoid if you are aged between 20 to 30 years. By the way, let me tell you one secret. Don't get yourself into this mistake if you fall in between those two ages, okay? Now, the point here is these are 3 investments that I should tell you to avoid it as a plague. And I'm going to discuss everything on this particular board. And in case you're watching me for the first time, this is Git Joseph. And go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment on the comment section. Let's get on the board. I love saving time, okay? Investment number 1. Avoid anything that is tying down your capital too early. Tying down your capital too early. Are we together? You find somebody, for God's sake, let's say, maybe say you're 25 years old, okay? You know, people are lucky in different ways. You find this person has accessed, say, 400K. Some even are lucky to maybe be a millionaire at this particular point, meaning they are able to make a million. Let's say use an example of 400,000. Or you find somebody at least 26 or 27, you have this amount of money. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what gets into you. I don't know whether because you grew up with this mentality, your grandfathers and your great-grandfathers, if you met them, they told you by default the wealth is created by buying lands. So you get your for the first time in your lifetime, you've never seen that amount of money, 400K. So what do you think? You know that, by the way, I do not know who told Kenyans. I do not, whether you're watching me from a different country. I don't know, tell me whether this thing is in your country. Here in Kenya, if someone gets huge chunk of cash, they think about 2 things, huge purchases. It's either a car or a land. I don't know why we never see any other thing that can be purchased with huge amount of money. Now, you get this amount of money, you rush into buying a parcel of land, a piece of land somewhere, probably 100 kilometers away from you. Again, I did not say buying lands are bad, and I did not say that people should never buy lands in their lives. No, timing is the issue. Somebody, you know, I met somebody on the street and we were like, oh, Joseph, you're the one who tells us not to buy lands. And whatever. But like, you don't understand what I talk about. I'm not saying you should never buy land. Find somebody taking this amount of money, you rushing. You're very young, at 25, you have this amount of money, you rush. Then you buy that particular land. Then you come back to whatever you're doing, your daily hustles. Now you are wondering, okay, fine. You've taken a whole 400K, you've turned it down into a capital. You've tied that capital down somewhere far from you. Whatever you've bought there is not generating anything. Whatever you've actually bought there, it's just somewhere idle. Sure, it is appreciating because it's land. Anyway, you can call it land banking. But the fact is, it's not propagating you. Listen, there's something I will tell you here. There are 2 things when it comes to cash. One, there's something we call growing money. Please always understand this. Growing money. And then there's something called safeguarding money. Safeguarding money. Are you together? There's a difference between growing and safeguarding. When you are young, I always recommend from 21 all the way to 45, focus on growing money. Focus on things that are multiplying your money. You take this money, you put here, it generates some income. That income you put here generates another income. You put, like, it's all about playing with the numbers, investing here and there, investing here and there, growing your money and all those kind of things. Because at this particular age, you're supposed to focus on multiplying your money, growing your money. Then a time will come that is above 46 years. Now you start now safeguarding it. Okay, I've been using a lot of my time to actually grow my money. Now you're looking away of now preserving. Capital preservation, either in liquid form or in asset form that are generating cash flow and such. So when you focus on safeguarding your money too early, when you're too young, it becomes an issue. For God's sake, at 25, you have that. You're only 7 years before after you became an adult, if you are a Kenyan, because the age of consent here in Kenya is 18 years old. You're only 7 years into the adulthood. Now you've taken this money, you've tied down that capital. It becomes very, very dangerous for you. What you're supposed to do, ask yourself, where did you get that 400K? Unless it was a windfall. You know, a windfall, there's money that you get it just out of nowhere. But if it's a business that you're starting somewhere, probably say you're selling these pens, and that business has generated you that cash flow, I would rather have that money somewhere in a cash or cash equivalent investments where I can access it at any given time, thinking of how I can be able to plow back that money into my business, to scale it, to grow it, or take it to a notch higher, because it has proven that indeed it can actually work. Or if maybe you have to transform fully from whatever you're doing to a different thing, focus on something that is generating you cash flow so that you can be able to grow yourself. You'd rather even divide that money into 2 or into 3. Some have it, say, in stock, some have it speculate into a business, some have it, like, it's an age of trying different things. Remember what I told you sometimes back, when you're 20 to 30, focus on doing many things. Press a lot of buttons to know what works and what doesn't work. From 30 to 40, start learning from somebody. Pick an individual whom you be like, you know what, I'm going to be learning from this individual. From 40 to 50, do what you understand, what you've been learning now. There's no time to try many things. From 50 to 60, start empowering others. You start empowering others. From 60 and above, just stay aside and let others do the show. That's exactly how it goes by. So now you find somebody, you played too safe when you're 25. Now when you're 40, that's the time now you start buying crypto, or 50, that's now you're thinking about crypto. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with somebody at 50 buying crypto, but the point here is those are the things that you should have tried way earlier. You know, start some businesses, gather yourself some experience. Don't go through, grow through. Once you grow through something, you gather experience. Then you gather knows and you gather knowings and all those kind of things, whether that name exists in English. So at least you can be able to grow yourself. So this is an investment that you should avoid if you are this particular age. An investment or something that is tying down your capital too early. Now, the second one that you should definitely avoid is something that is an asset. Let me put this on board in a very systemic way. Okay. Number two, what you should avoid is buying or in investing into an asset that is not, and I'll put that not in capital letters, generating cash flow. Generating cash flow. Avoid. Just avoid investing in things that are not generating cash flow. Are we together? Because there are two types of assets. There is an asset that generates cash flow, and there is an asset that does not generate cash flow. For instance, allow me to use an example of land. Yeah, and by the way, I never have issues with the lands. So it's only that I've met a lot of people and they regret. That's why I always tell you. Probably you're arguing from the point of theoretical point. I'm arguing from the point of practical. Now you find a land on its own, it's an asset. It's not a liability. I agree. It's an asset because it's appreciating in value. That's very true. But it is not putting money in your pocket. It is not generating cash flow. Cash flow is the money that, oh my. Some people don't even know what is cash flow, by the way. It is good I don't assume that you guys know what is cash flow. Cash flow is when you put, for example, say you take 100K, you start a business. That business now starts generating money back to your pocket. That is cash flow. Now, and cash is king. And now you go ahead and purchase an asset. That asset, it just, see, when you buy land, it's just there. It's not generating anything. At the end of the month, you ain't going to get anything from that land unless you do four things. One, you either do farming. Two, you sell that particular land. Three, you do the rentals. Or four, you sell the entire land. Those are apparently the only four ways how you can generate cash flow from a land or cash from a land. Okay, and cash flow, remember one thing, there's a difference between a capital gain and cash flow. Those are two different things. Capital gain is when you buy this pen, say at $1, you sell it at $2. So you get that one profit once and for all because you no longer have this pen to sell it again. I know that you get that. So that is a capital gain. You buy it, then you sell it, then you make the money. You don't have the consider. But when you invest in something that it is there and it's still generating cash flow, that is now what we call cash flow because it's just flowing. The cash is just flowing. Are we together? So when you're at this particular age, please, I would highly recommend you concentrate on the assets that are generating cash flow. There are two phases of a human being. When you are too young, let's say at your 20s, and when you go for retirement. Those two individuals, they require a lot of cash flow. When you're too young, you require a lot of cash flow to grow yourself. When you're old or when you're retired, you require a lot of cash flow to sustain yourself. These are two different individuals. So when you're too young and you have a lot of assets that are not generating anything, you're actually tying down your capital. You don't have a purchasing power. You know, for example, I tell people when you're young, let's say, for example, you have a land worth 2 million, for instance, and then an opportunity comes up. And an opportunity there is where I needed some cash. You'll be able to buy that, liquidate it, make some cash. Yeah, sure, you'll be like, yeah, I can afford it, but I do not have the cash. It is actually in my what? In my land. And then here you are old. You become an asset rich and you're cash poor. And the fact remains, you need cash to sustain yourself. That's when your parents calls you back at home. They don't tell you, hey, send me a title deed. They always ask you, send me some few coins. You have to understand when you need assets and such, yeah? Now, this is a thing that you should avoid, investing in assets that are not generating cash flow. Just accumulation of assets that are not doing anything. In that regard, then, you're going to get yourself into lots of problems. That's why I always recommend, please, if you have to invest, if you have to put your money aside, into an investment. Focus on cash flow, focus on something that has not tied down your capital. And lastly, as far as that is concerned, let me go ahead and look for that, is what we call peer pressured investments. Those are investments that you're supposed to avoid. Number 3, peer pressured investments. What are those? These are the investment that you yourself as an individual, you've not done any due diligence. You cannot verify. They are not verifiables. You cannot authenticate, substantiate that indeed this investment is worth getting my money into. You're only relying on your friend John told you, hey, I did put this money and this is the money I have. And that is exactly how the scams are hovering around in this country. You know, you find that somebody, hey, just because your friend did put a certain amount of money, you're relying on rumors. You don't know. You're just hearing, hey, people did buy this and do the other. I remember there was a time we had 2 projects. One, the earliest one was about quails. There are some birds called quails, yeah? Here in Kenya, we had a frantic movement where people were buying quails and, you know, I don't know, somebody said somewhere where you can't even verify. I don't know, there's some European somewhere, they want to buy those quails and those eggs are like gold mine. They are buying it very expensive. So, you remember there was something, and I would like you to go read this story. It's called The Monkey Business. Somebody who showed up in a village and told them, you know, he's buying monkeys. The guy created a demand of something that was not even there. So he created the demand and he decided the supply. At the same time, there was a lot of demand of the thing. And okay, go just read that thing about the monkey business. You know, you find that's what people do. You know, you come here and then there are some rumors. Hey, you know what? These quails are good and whatever. So peer pressured. So you end up buying the quails and whatever. You don't even care who is the market. Where are you going to sell? Who are these European who will be buying? You know, and all that. You don't even understand the nitty-gritties about layering. You get what I'm saying? By the time you realize you are in a ditch. The second one was about certain fruit called, was it dragon fruit or something like that? Yeah. Nowadays, they're all over the place. But those who started it, it's like a scam to some extent. The benefit, it's like somebody who walked in a certain hardware asking a certain particular form of a padlock. You know, he went to hardware and asked, do you have this padlock? They say, no, we do not. He went to another hardware, do you have this? And then he had some other guys contracting them, going to the same hardware and asking, hey, do you have this padlock? No. So he created the demand of that particular padlock. And then ultimately one person came and be like, you know what? I'm supplying this padlock and whatever. By the way, if you didn't know, this padlock are on demand and whatever. Be like, yeah. Guys have been asking me about that padlock and whatever. Bring on. So the guy brought all the padlocks and stashed it there and they made the money and nobody came to buy those padlocks. So anyway, the point here is don't invest in peer pressured investments. First of all, invest on verifiables. Understand what it is. If you come on my Good Joseph channel and you hear to me talking about index fund, don't just rush into investing in index fund. Contact your financial advisor. If you do not have any, you can contact somebody who has invested there. Or if you do not have such, you can always contact me. But of course, I usually charge for my services and I'll be able to take you through on what you're supposed to invest. That is after I understand exactly what you need or where you are financially. Guys, if you're in a particular age, those are the investments that you should avoid them as a plague. This is Good Joseph at all the time. In case you need my services, that is my number. Pick it up there, shoot me a call, let's talk business. For now, it's a goodbye. See you in the next one.